Latitude 0, longitude 0. Speaking from the center of the world, Ghana. This is where we are. This is the center of Pan-Africanism. Moving black people forward, uniting us on the same platform, telling the stories that concerns us. Boom! Zo TV talking points. Do not change the dial. Stay tuned.
Boom, 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 boom. Yes, another fresh episode from the motherland. And this time it's gonna be a little bit different. But let's just do this logic, reasoning, critical thinking a little bit. You know, if you are born in India, the probability of you becoming a Hindu is about 95% or the percentage will always be above 90. If you are born in Thailand, the probability that you be a Buddhist is also over 90%. I can go on and go on and go on. Just, it's a status quo that wherever you're born, the dominant religion is going to be the religion or the spirituality you follow. But when you go around the world, the only people or the only race of humans whose religion changes irrespective of wherever they've been born is black people, Africans. So when you're born in Africa, the probability that you become a Christian is more than 70%. So what happened with our spirituality? What happened to what nature gave us? How come ours is different from everybody else? Today we have at the studio something a bit different I call from Christianity to Africanity. From Christianity to Africanity. So we have a young man who has been through a journey of being a Christian, and now I would say that he's a born again African. You know how Christians always born again? This one is born again from Christianity to Africanity. Yes, I'm going to have a home conversation. His journey. My brother, please introduce yourself to the audience.
My name is Nana Obejina Odifo. I am a diviner, a teacher, and a herbalist.
Okay, you are a diviner, a teacher, and a herbalist.
Yes.
Wow. Anyway, so how did you become a diviner, a herbalist, and what again?
A teacher.
A teacher. Is this something that you learned from your early ages, or how did that happen?
Interestingly, all of us here came to this world with a particular destiny.
Okay.
And that is the African cultural way of life.
Okay.
So once you identify who you are, then you can begin to train towards that course.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because I was mixed up in different religions, in Christianity.
You were messed up?
Yes.
Or mixed up?
Mixed up. Mixed up in a different religion. It took me a very long time for me to realize my true potential and what I'm here for.
All right.
And so as soon as I got to know that, I began the pursuit of it.
Okay.
And that is why today I'm a teacher of African spirituality, African tradition,
Okay.
a diviner, and then a herbalist.
Okay. So I'm presuming that means that your first spirituality or religion was Christianity.
Yes.
You were Christian.
Yes.
But it is not easy to move from Christianity to African spirituality. I for sure know that Ghana itself is 70% Christians, 20% Muslims, and 10% others. That's what they put in our books. So how were you able to transition?
It's not easy. And for many years to come, I'm sure it is not going to be easy.
Okay.
Because it appears that if you don't affiliate yourself with any of these foreign religions, it becomes very difficult for you as an African living in Africa to choose Africa as your religion.
Okay.
So when I was young, of course, I was born into Christianity. My grandparents were Jehovah's Witnesses.
Jehovah's Witness?
Jehovah's Witness. So
okay.
I went there for a while. We went to Pentecost, then to Apostolic Church of Ghana, to Methodist, to ICGC, to Winners Chapel, to ICGC again. But at a certain point, I had more questions than answers.
Okay. What age were you at that time? Because you know, you want to be able to ask questions at a certain age where people will think what he's asking is relevant. So what age were you?
Okay, for me, as early as childhood,
Okay.
I remember there are many times I will interact with my mom, and then she will just try and shut me down.
Okay.
So for a while, I was quiet.
Mm.
But when I got to senior high school, secondary school,
Mm-hmm.
that time I was able to read, I was able to grasp things, and I was able to listen to things on myself.
Okay.
In fact, I remember the first time I bought my Walkman, right?
Walkman, yeah.
My Walkman, good.
Yeah.
There were certain programs I could now independently listen to.
Okay.
And those were the ones that laid the foundation for my boldness in asking those questions.
All right.
So at that stage, I had my personally switched from the church my parents were attending to a different church
Okay.
because I felt that that church was better suited my quest for a particular energy. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So that was the time I started asking questions, I started listening, I started researching. I remember back at SS, I could go to the library, right? And then take the encyclopedia
Mm-hmm.
and then read on Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
Judaism, Christianity,
Okay.
the history,
Okay.
to further understand what I was getting myself into.
All right.
Because the more questions I was asking, the less answers I was getting.
Yeah.
Let me add this to it. When I was at ICGC,
ICGC.
back at Swedro, I remember one time I walked to my pastor and asked him, "Who is God?"
All right.
And then he looked at me for a while. And he asked me who gave him the Bible. And I told him who gave him the Bible. And he said that I should go and read the Bible and I'll find God. Honestly, I was disappointed. Because I was expecting that at least he would give me 1 or 2 pointers
Yeah.
for me to start from there and ground myself in the knowledge of who God was.
Yeah.
So because he pointed me back to the Bible, I have to now go and read the Bible.
And when you read the Bible,
And when I read the Bible,
you
that
saw
was,
God walking around.
that was where I realized that we are grasping with the concepts we do not understand.
Yeah.
And again, I began asking myself, before the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
what were we doing
Okay.
as Africans, as a
Yes.
people?
Yeah.
Before the introduction of the Bible and its deity,
Mm.
who and where were we worshiping and how did we do it?
Yeah.
In fact, that question, go and read the Bible, it drove me further away from the
Bible.
church. Because the more you read and the more you know, the more firm you become.
Yeah.
So when I left for university, of course, you have some form of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And then this time you can decide how often you go to church,
Mhm.
which church you go, and whether you go to church or not.
Yeah, but what was your relation with? Because at this particular time, you are expanding your knowledge base.
Yes.
And you are getting more aware.
Mhm.
So how was your relationship with your family, immediate family?
In fact,
Do they see you to be somebody who is just trying to go wayward, as normal Ghana people who say he's going wayward, he does not want to follow any particular path? You know, how were they perceiving you?
in fact, because I began by moving from one church to the other, my first challenge happened when the former church that I attended, Apostolic Church of Ghana, the Sunday school madam, and she was also a teacher at my secondary school.
Okay.
So one day she met me and asked me that, I've not been seeing you at church recently. Why?
Okay.
That time I had switched from Apostolic to ICGC.
Okay.
And I loved the way they were doing their stuff.
All right.
So I didn't see why I was going to go back
Okay.
to Apostolic.
Do you get more answers there? Or you just that the drumming was very nice?
No, because I was still young and I was still looking.
The keyboardists were playing very good.
Good.
You know?
And the way they dressed somehow was more corporate for me. I don't know. I found that I could affiliate with them better.
Better. Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't give her any answer when she asked me that question. And she mistook that to be that I was becoming rebellious and stubborn and not going to church.
Mhm.
She found a very nice way for me to be punished on campus that I will never forget.
Oh.
And in fact, I think that punishment rather reinforced my will that I wasn't going to go back to their church.
Okay.
She could do the worst to me
Yeah.
because I knew that I found something in that church and I believed that was something good. It was the quest in the beginning.
Yeah.
Interestingly, my family were Pentecostals, but when I left to ICDC, for some reasons, I was able to convince them to move from Pentecost
Okay.
to ICGC.
All right.
So we were quite okay because it is the same stream,
Yeah.
it's the same religion, and there was no wahala.
But they were not worried about your questions not being answered.
That at that time I was a bit grown, so I was not even asking them the questions.
Okay.
Because from childhood I'd asked them so many questions, I wasn't getting the answer. So I felt that maybe they didn't have the answers.
Yeah.
So let me ask the pastor, the elder, the teacher.
Yeah.
And that was where the church appeared not to like me. Because I was bringing logic to church, whilst the church defied logic.
Yeah, because they want you to believe.
They don't want to believe.
Yeah.
And you see, somehow within me, I felt that even if I would believe, it should be grounded on knowledge. You must know it for you to believe it.
All right.
So when I was asking my Sunday school teacher and my pastors, and they were not giving the right answers, it made me ask more questions. And therefore, I began reading on my own. That was where I started going to the library and consulting other books, including the encyclopedia, to find out this religion, where is it coming from? How did it get here?
Yeah.
And where are we going with it?
Yeah.
And the more questions I asked, in fact, the more I started leaving the church.
Okay. So when did you leave the church? At what age did you leave the church?
Officially, I think around 25 years.
25?
Yeah.
You left
And
the church?
let me tell you the story. In fact, I had gone to a couple of churches, and it appears that they were all money-centered.
Money-centered?
Money-centered. It's like, if you don't give to God, God will curse you. If you don't... I didn't get that right. So I told myself that, look, let me call this God that they are claiming that they collect the money and give to him.
At what age did you, get out of the church?
Officially at the age of 25.
25.
Something interesting happened. In fact, I had finished university.
What university did you go?
University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA.
Oh, okay.
Good.
UPSA. Yeah, okay.
So I had finished university, I had done my service, but things were not going the way I expected to go.
Okay.
I mean, economically, you expect that certain things will be okay. And in fact, the more you face that kind of toughness, the more it forced you to ask questions.
Yeah.
So I go to church A. The church, they are so money-centered. They're asking for money. In fact, one pastor said specifically that if you bring one cedi offering into the collection bowl, he will curse you.
Wow.
And I was like, what is happening here? Because I could, and it was an evening service.
Yeah.
So evening service there, I mean, granted, people will come and then pass one cedi around, okay? And my issue was that there were children in the queue. In fact, he even asked those with one cedi in the queue to go and sit down. When I go home, I asked so many questions. What if...
And you had finished university by then, you're not working,
Yes.
you don't have money.
Exactly.
And this is where somebody's going to curse you because you don't have money. And, it's like it's very complicated. Do I go to be cursed or do I stay home?
Exactly.
Boom, So TV. Original from Ghana. Latitude 0, longitude 0, you can't find it anywhere. We have to tell the stories like this to find our way forward. All black people around the world, you stay tuned. Do not change the dial. The frequency is Zo TV Talking Point. My brother, continue.
So I left that church to a church that I felt that initially they understood economic needs of people.
Yeah.
And apparently the pastor was also preaching the same sermon. That if you don't bring offering, you'll be cursed by God. So I asked myself, when they collect all these monies, where does the money go? That was my first point of inquiry. And if it's this God, we need to find this God and ask him some serious questions.
Yeah, bro, you like questions, man. You like questions too much, man.
Because supposedly in the Bible, a widow gave her mite. The mite is like one peswa. And it shook the gates of heaven, they say. And therefore she was blessed. Why is that my one cedi will not be enough?
Okay.
So now I want the God they are worshiping to come. So we can have a banter and sort things out.
Yeah.
I personally set aside 30 days praying, asking Jehovah, Jesus, and then the Holy Ghost to come for us to have a discussion on this money issue.
Yeah.
And
They never turn up.
They didn't show up. And as up to now, they've not shown up.
Maybe they show up spiritually. You didn't see them.
I was waiting for them both spiritually and physically.
What was the question?
I was still living in the small corner at Medina.
So you were waiting for them at
I was waiting at Medina.
My brother, man. Anyway, that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay, you continue. Okay.
So after 30 days, they didn't show up. In fact, they didn't even send me a note that they'll come or they'll not come.
Yeah.
Then I told myself, if I was in a dire situation and I needed help. And I've called this God that I've worshipped more than 20 years of my life, and he fails to show up. What is my fate now?
Yeah.
In fact, the last 7 days of the 30 days, and it was a fasting and prayer session.
Okay.
So I was fasting and praying and asking them to come for this discussion. The last 7 days, I told them that if they don't come, there will be repercussions. In fact, I went ahead and told them that it meant that they were not interested in me as a person.
Yeah.
Therefore, I will leave their religion
Okay.
and be on my own. That was when I was very definite.
Yeah.
And I thought this simple warning would at least shake the people for them to show up.
Uh-huh.
They didn't come.
They didn't come.
So what did I do? On that Saturday, the last day was a Saturday, I told myself in the last prayer that I made to Jehovah, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost that if in ya tunkwanta ya pai. Madina zongo jansi nkwanta no.
Yeah.
Ya pai owa. Because I know when I need help, they can't show up.
Yeah.
Therefore, I cannot contribute my time,
Yeah.
my effort in worshiping them.
But when you take it back to somebody probably is watching us and listening, and he's saying that, oh, you know what? Yeah, so God didn't do it for you. That's why you stopped church. But God did it for me. That is why I'm still at the church. So they will say, oh, your prayer was not enough, or your fasting was not enough. You have a deficient in something. That is why your God did not show up. And then now you stop. So still doesn't answer the question that, Christian, blah, 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 blah. So it was you. They put the blame on you. Oh, what do you think about that?
Even if I was at fault, as a good father that he claims that he is in the Bible,
Yeah.
he should have even told me where I went wrong.
Okay.
Because at that time, I was a dedicated Christian.
Yeah.
I was not deviating.
Yeah.
I won't say I was perfect,
Yeah.
just as we are not all perfect. But at least, even if I was wrong, I could be corrected.
Okay.
And I don't think that 30 days of a call is not enough to pick the attention of any good father.
Okay.
In fact, let me tell you what even happened. So I've stopped going to church. I'm just sitting down one evening playing computer game.
Did you tell any friend that you are stopping? Did you tell any family member that you are stopping? Did you tell your girlfriend? Did you make an announcement to anybody, or you were just quiet and all you did was bang?
In fact, the very day I stopped there, I had not told anybody.
Okay.
But that first Sunday that I slept and I didn't go to church, I felt like a burden had been lifted off my shoulders.
Okay.
That first Sunday.
Yeah.
But what was my evidence? That even if I stop going to church, there's something better out there for me. So one day I was saying,
Yes.
playing computer game, and something just told me that if you tried religion, Christianity, and it didn't work, why don't you go and see if your ancestral way will work?
Okay. So this was the message you got.
Good.
Okay.
Around, it was quite in the evening, so I was just playing computer game, and the thing told me, go and pour libation and see if somebody will listen to you. You have spent 30 days calling someone who didn't show up. Try the other side and see if somebody will show up.
Okay.
So that evening,
All right.
I went out without knowing what to say,
Okay.
how to say, where to say it.
Okay.
I just blabbered my mouth and I was just pouring libation on the ground.
All this time from your age 1 to 25, 26 now, have you ever been exposed to any ancestral worship, any traditional worship, any African story of this is what we do, we pour libation? Did you ever come across any of that?
No,
You
never. In fact,
Okay.
because my home was a Christian home, such discussions were never brought up.
Ah.
So I was completely cut off from my ancestral ways without knowing anything.
All right.
So when I heard, or the edge, or the voice told me that I should go and pour the libation, I didn't even know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
All that I knew was that I was going to pick water and pour it in the ground and say something, just to see if somebody can just hear me out.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, when I did that, 3 days time, my grandfather, who was late, comes to me for a discussion.
Wow.
It's amazing. In 3 days, I spent 30 days calling on the Christian God. He doesn't show up. Then I was even just making a general call because at this time, I don't know any family God. I don't know any ancestor. I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
I was just saying if somebody cares enough
Yeah.
to hear me out.
Yeah.
And the gospel truth was that somebody cared on the other side
Okay.
and heard me. So my grandfather, we had a very decent discussion.
Okay.
And in fact, after that time, that was when I started telling people that it is better we go to ancestral ways.
Okay.
In fact, when the madness, quote unquote, is fresh,
Yeah.
you can't keep quiet.
You can't keep quiet.
So I told people that I was with, my family, my friends, everybody.
Yeah.
And the punishment that was meted out to me. In fact, if you're not strong, you go back.
The punishment.
Yeah, you'll be punished. In fact, as an African, the day you choose freedom, the day you choose to be African, prepare to be punished for it.
Okay. Why? Is it because it feels like we have deviated from our ways for too long? That the ancestors have been waiting for us to come, and this is the time you've come now. So you go get some small punishment before you continue. Is that the way?
In fact, initially, I felt that people just didn't understand me.
Of course, they will not.
Good. And people felt that whatever I have found or discovered, I just keep quiet and just join the ship. I couldn't sit still.
Yeah.
In fact, if you compare 30 days to 3 days results,
Yeah.
how can you keep quiet?
Yeah.
So even in when boys are talking and then there's a simple discussion, somehow the issue of spirituality, African culture, tradition will find its way into it.
Yeah.
But when they realize that you are towing that line, then people don't want to befriend you again.
Okay, so that is the punishment you are talking about.
Good.
You get alienated
Alienated,
by society,
Become
by friends
lonely.
and everybody. Become lonely.
bored,
Yes, bored.
dejected.
Yes.
But if you're even working and you make this known in the office,
Yeah.
somehow, especially if it's a private firm,
Yeah.
they will find a way to just kick you out.
Yes. Because you are representing another voice, a voice of, or how do you call it, a Satan or a voice of demon. Or,
Exactly.
because you need to belong to the majority way of thinking.
Good.
And how come you are different? So the day you choose to be African, that is the day you get your punishment.
Yes.
And the punishment doesn't stop. You have to keep fighting.
Mm.
Well, we can't stop either. We have to keep moving. So please, let's go. So now, the voice of your grandfather, was it it will be a voice.
Yes.
But how were you able to tell that it was your grandfather? I'm a bit curious.
Good. In fact, it wasn't even a voice. In fact, the first call to go and pour the libation was a voice. But the second time, it was a vivid dream. In fact, I can't forget it.
Okay.
And all the questions that I raised in the libation,
Yeah.
he had come with answers.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's amazing. If I've asked a general question, 5 general questions, this man came with answers.
Okay.
And he was showing me things. In fact, initially I thought that it wasn't something extraordinary.
Yeah.
So when I went home, I had
let me go to the Rastafari world a little bit in terms of smoking ganja and all that. Somebody will say that, oh man, the guy had a lot of joints, man. And then he has some hallucination or some marijuana psychosis going on. So they will think that you've smoked a lot and you've come in up with all these kind of talk.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's not marijuana psychosis. He hasn't had any joint before.
I don't smoke, I don't drink.
Anyway, yeah. So please, don't make sure that you don't go to the comment section and say the guy smoked a lot of joint. He went to cloud 9. He never went to any cloud 9. He's still here.
So I went home and I had a discussion. In fact, when I told my parents that I stopped going to church, I couldn't afford to go home for the next 6 months.
Wow.
Yes. And I was somebody that I used to frequent home.
Yeah.
Like in a month, I could go twice or at least once. But when I made that stance, for 6 months, I couldn't go home.
Because
there are so many. It wasn't like a conversation they're going to have with me. A demand that I have to go back to church.
Yeah.
1. 2. I myself, even though I had gotten enough reason to stay out, I wasn't firmly rooted.
Yes.
I was still hanging. In
You're
fact,
still hanging.
and when your friends begin to desert you,
Yeah.
and you become so lonely,
Yeah.
and sometimes you even believe that you are mad, but you are not mad.
Yeah.
You begin to make sure that you have to get your grounds before you can engage other people.
Yeah.
So I told myself that, listen, you have seen what you have seen. Give yourself time.
Okay.
So for 6 months, I wasn't going home.
Yeah.
Then one day I felt like it's time.
For you to go.
Let's go home.
You were a bit well grounded.
Good.
And understood yourself better.
Exactly.
To go and communicate on the
Exactly.
issue. Yeah.
So when I got home, of course, that topic came up. It was one of the initial topics that came up. So why don't you go to church again?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I realized that it's all deception. I said, I can't say that. All the big men that I know, they go to church. And I said, that could be true. But I also know some big men that don't go to church.
Yeah.
then I go ahead and say that I'm not saying that someone should not go to church, but I'm saying that I will not go to church again.
Yeah.
Because I have seen my reasons. And interesting enough, then my parents began to share their experiences of African spirituality.
Okay.
And that was the first time. The first time my daddy told me the experiences he had and how he knows that these things are true. Then I asked him, then why do you still go to church?
So TV talking points. Do not change the dial. Stay tuned.